world peace until the Prince of Peace establishes his throne on this earth. That's the bottom line.
And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man, whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man, and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. And Noah begat 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, The end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Room shalt thou make in the ark, and shalt pitch it within and without with pitch. And this is the fashion which thou shalt make it of. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. A window shalt thou make to the ark, and in a cubit shalt thou finish it above. And the door of the ark shalt thou set in the side thereof. With lower, second, and third stories shalt thou make it. And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth, to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life from under heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die. Of fowls also of the air by sevens, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth, for yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth. For 7 days, that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. In the selfsame day entered Noah, and Shem, and Ham, and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them into the ark. They and every beast after his kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, and every fowl after his kind, every bird of every sort. And they went in unto Noah into the ark, 2 and 2 of all flesh, wherein is the breath of life. And they that went in male and female of all flesh, as God had commanded him. And the Lord shut him in. And after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. And the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. And
I've never seen it, never been there, but I think that's probably Noah's Ark. Do we have the books? I think I got them right here. Yeah, right here. No. I have 3 copies of Ron's book. I should have had that ready ahead of time. It's a black hardback book with a paper shiny gloss cover. 3 in a row. See if you can see that, would you, Anna? One's kind of beat up. Doesn't matter. Okay, they used to sell them, but you can get them straight from Richard Reeves, who took over the ministry. Okay, so you claim your question is, why have his claims never been verified? Well, I'd have to disagree with that premise, okay? Ron's number, or Richard's number, who took over for him, I just saw him a few weeks ago when I was up there, is 931-239-4745. There's Richard Reeves, and a model of Noah's Ark that they built. Okay. They say the ark collapsed on itself. Now, after studying all this in the country of Turkey, Ron spent many thousands of dollars going over there many times to look at this, the iron rivets, having them tested, stuff like that. This is all on my video number 3 about dinosaurs in the Bible, if you want to get that. The piece of deck timber that's apparently 3 layers of wood glued together like a real giant plywood. about 4.5-inch thick plywood. That would be incredibly strong. Tough to, that would apparently was what it was made out of. It's a converted gas station on the exit 27 as you're going north on I-65. Come out of Alabama into Tennessee, go to exit 27, it's the northwest corner. Stop and tell them I said hi. There's the book I'm looking for. I got 3 of them here somewhere. I should have got it ready. But you can get the book for like $30 or something from them, their ministry. So the government of Turkey went to examine all the stuff that Ron was claiming, because he told them right away, look, I think I found Noah's Ark and it's in your country. So they went there and did a bunch of study on it and confirmed, yep, what they think that's Noah's Ark. And they built a visitor center, which you can go there today. Let's see, right? The government confirms this is Noah's Ark. And there's the government visitor center right there where Noah's Ark is. Now, they built it off the mud flow because every once in a while the ground moves there, and so they don't want their visitor center to crash and fall down. And some people say it's not Noah's Ark. Well, it is the right size. It's in the right location. I think that, at least that claim, can say has been pretty well verified, even by secular sources.
On the top of Mount Everest, tell us about the biblical flood. Well, we find fossils of marine creatures in limestone near the summit, which means that this area must have been under the sea in the past. Everyone agrees that the top of Everest was once under the sea. However, many people do not associate these rocks and fossils with Noah's flood because they think there is not enough water to cover the highest mountains. However, they are not considering how the flood changed the Earth's topography. The mountain ranges formed at the end of the flood. With vertical earth movements towards the end of the flood, the mountains rose and the water flowed off the continents into the newly formed ocean basins. Indeed, such mountains must have formed quickly and recently, otherwise they would have eroded as quickly as they formed. That's why we have marine fossils at the top of high mountains.
Look at that. These are everywhere.
Look at this.
All sorts of seashells. Look, this whole floor is littered in seashells and ancient cool stuff. Look. All of these are shells. Awesome. I can't take all of these, and I don't really want to, but I will take a handful so I can give to some people that I know will appreciate them. These are really freaking cool. There's like an entire shelf just right here. Look, there's some big ones. Some big ones. How cool is that?
This is a pretty common sight here. You can see it has mother of pearl all over it. A lot of these are kind of layered so that you can see there's just several shell type things that have kind of been all glommed together. And so it's just a layer after layer of shell fragments. And whatever that shell was, it was pretty big initially. I'm thinking some kind of clam. It's got the ridges like a clam does. Neat. Here's kind of a cool little spot. It's just some rocks that have been kind of smushed together by time. And this one I just opened up. And it's got a little clam inside. These rocks are all so loose that you can just break them apart with your fingers, which is what I'm doing. So, let's see if we can find anything else. We once found a giant clam in this same area and dug it out as a family. My kids were younger then. And jacketed it in plaster because we didn't want to lose it. And then my poor husband had to carry it all the way up the hill. And as you can have probably imagined, the hill was very, very steep. And the thing weighed, oh gosh, it had to weigh more than 50 pounds. So he wasn't super happy about it, but it turned out well. We prepared it and preserved it, and I'll put a picture in here.
This stunning structure is based on biblical dimensions, and it's absolutely massive. We headed down to Williamstown, Kentucky to see the Ark for ourselves, and we were totally blown away. This modern marvel is 510 feet long, 85 feet wide, and 51 feet tall. Each of the Ark's decks offers a glimpse into what life was like for Noah and his family. There's so much to explore, so let's dive right in with an interactive interview with Ark Encounter founder Ken Ham. Here we go. So Ken, as we enter the Ark here, can you tell me what we're seeing?
Well, this is a life-size Ark, and it was based on a wooden ship, but it's built as a building for tourists, all right? And many people don't realize that there were ancient cultures, the Egyptians, the Chinese, others that built great wooden ships. And if you look at this area here, an engineer actually designed this based on how some real wooden ships were built. So with those interlocking layers and so on, it's not just, a wooden side of the ship. It was built like this. People were very, very intelligent, and they knew by doing that it would stop it twisting and stop it leaking and so on.
So even in these ancient cultures, this is how they
built some of their ships. So it's to show that ancient cultures are very intelligent. We have an exhibit about that on the third deck, but also to help people understand, this really did happen. This was a real ship, and Noah could actually do this.
And one of the things that's incredible as you walk in, you get a sense of how sweeping and large this is. And that's the thing that kind of takes your breath away. You're outside and you look at it, but then as you enter in, you start to feel that immediately.
Well, this is a gigantic structure. It's 1.5 times the length of a football field, half the width of a football field, and it's built 15 feet above the ground. And so from ground level to roof is 7 stories high. At the bow end, it's 10 stories high, and 3.3 million board feet of timber. So that's a big structure. It's actually called a timber frame structure. So it's the largest timber frame structure in the world. Not the largest timber structure, but the largest timber frame structure, which is a particular style of building with the lodge poles and the beams the way they are, the post and beam construction and so on.
What do we have here?
Well, these are cages. Actually, the Ark has sort of 3 different emphases for each of the 3 decks. And so as you walk in, deck 1 is basically emphasizing Noah has loaded the Ark. And so we have cages, you hear animal sounds, and actually the attention to detail is incredible because these cages, they're props, but they're not just props. You could actually use them as real cages because the watering system works, the feeding system works, and actually under here you see the way it's designed to collect the waste so that the waste could flow down and be collected.
So in other words, attention to detail. You guys built this to actually be functional as it would have been.
Right. In other words, we want to show people this is the way Noah could have done it. Based on the way people do things today, for instance. We look at how they've solved certain problems in regard to various issues and made sure we did this to help people understand, look, you can actually do this. It can actually happen. And so deck 1, Noah's loaded the Ark. Deck 2, we have teaching exhibits and themed exhibits, but an emphasis on themed exhibits. And deck 3, we have teaching exhibits and themed exhibits, but it's an emphasis on teaching exhibits. So each deck has a different flavor, so to speak. So as people come in, they see the cages, they see pots here, we're getting the sense that, hey, Noah has loaded the Ark.
Because would this have been water, food?
Could have been water, could have been food. A number of different things, storage ready for the journey, or things that they would use in the post-flood world, after the Ark lands and so on.
Well, you hear it as a story so often, right? And you picture it. You see the pictures in kids' books of the animals on the oversized animals on this little Ark. And then you walk in here and you see the complexities, and you have to think about how would they handle animal waste? How would they handle feeding the animals? How would they handle caging them?
And we've got specific exhibits that actually deal with that in much more detail as well. And you said something there that's very interesting, because you said, hear this story. See, one of the things we have to come to grips with is, in our modern world, the word story has changed meaning. Whereas story used to mean history, today if you ask a general audience, what does story mean today? They'll say fairy tale or fiction. And so we want to change that narrative. And as people come in here, this was real, this actually happened. It's not just a story. We don't use the word story, in fact. We want to use the word account, the account of the flood, the record of the flood in Genesis. And we want to encourage people in churches to get away from using the word story, because story today with our Generation Z, Generation Y, tends to mean fairy tale. And they get the idea, oh, the Bible's a book of stories. We learn real stuff at school. We want them to understand the Bible's a book of history. And that's really what this is doing, telling them this was history, this really happened.
Why was it important for you to build this?
Well, you know, back in 1975, when I first became a science teacher, the students were mocking me for being a Christian because they said the Bible couldn't be true because, you know, evolution and so on. And one of the students said, and so Noah couldn't fit all the animals on the ark. And one of the interesting things has been 40 years of traveling around the world. One of the most asked questions I get asked is, how can you believe in Noah's ark he couldn't fit the animals on board? In fact, when I debated Bill Nye at the Creation Museum in 2014, he mocked me for believing in Noah's ark because he said you couldn't fit the millions of species on board.
Well, and here we are. There's some animals.
Well,
right
you notice too, like this is the sloth kind, okay? Because in Genesis it says God created, now in English it's translated kind, after their kind, the land animals after their kind. The implication is each kind produced its own kind. Bill Nye mocked me by saying you couldn't fit all the millions of species on board. But species is an arbitrary term that man has invented. A phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. So our researchers have done a lot of scientific research leading up to this. What constitutes a kind? It's a Hebrew word min, that's translated kind. And we would say in most instances, and there's a tremendous exhibit on deck 2 that explains all this, in most instances a kind would be the family level. So if you take dogs, the family Canidae, that means the dog kind. That means you only needed 2 dogs on the ark, not the different genera, not all the species, not dingoes, wolves, coyotes, Bennett, boxers. In fact, we would say they didn't even exist until after the flood, which is not evolution because they're still dogs. It's just separating out some of that genetic diversity that's already there.
And broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because strait is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it.
Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him, and will sup with him, and he with me.